Welcome to the Branford Camera Club monthly meeting. Our speaker tonight is Kevin Newsom of today's Camera Room. In this meeting, Kevin will demonstrate the simplicity of his headshot setup, answer questions about his gear, cover lighting scenarios, client interaction, and his lighting fast workflow that leads to the same-day turnaround times and the loyal customers who repeatedly call on his talent. Kevin and his wife Kay opened Newsom Studio Photography in 1986, initially doing weddings and soon went into children and families, then high school seniors, and today are in high demand for their executive headshots and convention. He is the past president of the Tampa Area Professional Photographers Association, the Florida Professional Photographers, and the Southeastern Professional Photographers Association. In 2021, he closed his photography business to hike the Appalachian Trail. Kevin, nicknamed Reckless Abandon, that was his name given to him on the trail, decided it was time to take matters into his own hands. If he was ever going to have the epic adventure he dreamed of, he was going to have to create it himself. Kevin hiked 2,193 miles through 14 states. For 171 days, he battled the rocky terrain, vertical climbs, slippery descents, 4 hurricanes, mud bugs, falling trees, snakes, mosquitoes, swarms, hailstorms, and extreme temperatures. If you would like to know more about Kevin's experience on the Appalachian Trail, you can order his book and read all about his adventures. Now here's Kevin and today's program.
Those of you who don't know me, I'm Kevin Newsom. I've been in the photography business since the 70s. My first photography job was shooting baby pictures in Kmart in 1978. I worked all over Florida and southern Georgia doing Kmart, Zayre, Wolco, Woolworth, TG&Y, Big K, Cooks, Edwards. We would have shot in a Sunoco station if we could have got the studio to fit in there. So that little dog and pony show that you bounced around and did it all over, we were based out of Tampa. And I worked for that company. I worked for them for 9 years, from 1978 to 1986, I think it was. 8 years maybe. But I learned enough about photography to be dangerous, but not enough to be good. And so I left and I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta and took photography. And I got darkroom smart there. And then I began to understand, okay, now I know a little more about what we're doing here. When I got married in 1985, my wife had a degree in photography from the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. She had attended that at the same time I was in Atlanta. We didn't know each other. We met later when I left school and went back to work for that same company. We met working for that company. And we ended up getting married and then buying the studio from the guy who shot our wedding. So, it's kind of like, well, if I buy your biggest package, how much for the whole place? and he was looking to retire. He was from Cuba. He was born in Cuba. He was Cuban. He came over when Fidel took over, but his name was Lloyd Andrews. His father was British. His mother was Cuban. So he had a very British name, but he was as Cuban as Cubans come because he had a very thick accent. And a super nice guy, loved him to death. And he ended up selling the studio to myself and my wife. And then we kind of transitioned it. All he ever did was weddings and baptisms and first communions and quinces. It was all very Spanish clientele. And it had been in business. He had been in business since 1936. We bought him out in 1986. So 50 years. We buy a studio that's been in business for 50 years, and then 2 years later we changed the name, and we've had it for 35, 38 years, something like that now. But we closed it when I went to hike the Appalachian Trail. And those of you how many of you were here when I was here in November? Good. A handful of you, good. I spent 6 months in the woods from Georgia to Maine, and when I got back, I thought I was going to reopen another studio. But I said, well, let's just see how it goes, and I'll just take business that, calls and doesn't need a camera room, that I can go to them and do the work. I have been so busy. My 2022 beat the gross revenue of every year back to 2011. Wow. And I don't have the overhead of a commercial location anymore. I no longer pay, $25,000 in rent and, per year, plus internet and electric and all the other things that go with it. And so, my expense dropped, but my revenue grew. And that never happens. I didn't know how to act. But it got to the point where I said, I'll never have another studio again. I don't need another studio. And the joke was, I had a photographer, he was a young guy. He was just like me 30 years ago, only this was like 5 years ago. And he said, he came back to me that he had said, he's a good photographer. I love him to death. He's a nice guy, he really is. He's a very talented photographer in Florida. And it got back to me that, he's a good 25, 30 years younger than me. And I'm 68, by the way. And he goes, yeah, I knew somebody. He's always had a studio, he couldn't shoot his way out of his camera room if he had to, and he's old school, And I thought, yeah, I'll show you. So I hashtagged today's camera room. And every time I was shooting, not in my camera room, but on location, in an office, in a home, outdoors, at a convention center, I would post a picture and I hashtagged today's camera room. And I did that as a dig at him, and he knew it. He found out that I had been told what he'd said. I didn't hold it against him, but what was really funny was when he came to me very meekly and said, hey, that hashtag you're using, today's camera room, would it be okay if we co-op that? I said, I don't own the hashtag. I just invented it. So I still use today's camera room as my hashtag when I post a picture of my photography setups, which I do quite often on Instagram. I don't always post my clients' pictures. And I do that out of respect for my clients. Right. My clients, I'm not going to just, because I own the rights to the image, doesn't mean I'm going to automatically use them to promote my business. How do I know they're not in the FBI's secret, I don't want them to be embarrassed or feel used. And I want them to continue to call me with confidence that I'm going to respect their privacy. So I don't use it without their permission. I will use some images here, but that's not for the public domain. This is here, and so you'll see some images. But what I wanted to show you tonight was the setup that I use. It's really very simple. It's efficient. It's good, it's versatile, it's lightweight, it goes in and out on one little flat. I can go up and down elevators with everything I need. I don't have the limitations of, I don't need to bring with me all the stuff that I used to have in my camera room. I only bring what I need for that job, and I know exactly what I need. And I now have a very small storage unit, literally it's like 6 foot by 10 or 15 feet, and it's got everything I need. Whatever background I need, whatever, I've got 2 lighting setups. Like I can fit 2 lighting setups just like this in my Toyota Corolla and take them and shoot a school. I did it last week. 450 kids with 2 setups, 2 backgrounds, 2 everything. And I just hired another photographer to shoot the second one, and then 2 assistants to run the kids in and out. You okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me know if that's okay. I understand. I do that all the time. All I have to do is inhale and I breathe slobber down my lungs, Just feel free to get it out. Don't worry about me. Anyway, so I've got this setup works for me, and I use different kinds of backgrounds. I'll show you some pictures of it. But the premise is a main light, a reflector, there's a fill light. There's the reflector, and a background, and sometimes I don't even need a background. Sometimes the client wants to use their office as a background. I don't need any of this, okay? Hair light and a background light, which if we're using their office, I don't need either of those. All I need is the main light and a reflector. I can go in and shoot some outdoor stuff through their windows in their high-rise. I'll show you a couple shots like that. So anyway, the simplicity of the headshot setup makes good money because everybody needs a headshot. Companies that hire me, hospitals, banks, real estate offices, you know, insurance companies, property management companies. I did 3 headshots this morning, and before I came here, for a company, and I go to their, once you do it right, and you set a standard for them, that they know they've got quality, they've got a fast turnaround, they've got a reasonable price, they don't wanna have to vet another photographer. If you have, yes.
Sorry, Kevin, do you mind telling us what's your price range?
Oh, sure.
that?
When I go on location, it's kind of shifted since I had a studio. When I had a studio, if I went on if they came to the studio, the first image they purchased was $199 and each additional was $85.
Wow.
Now that's down from 15 years ago when it was $375 for the first image and $200 for each additional. The reason is demand, okay? I had to get back into a price range that was competitive with everybody else, because there's people who are gonna pick up the phone. Here's what happens. The CEO tells somebody in the office, I need a photographer, I need a headshot, get on the phone and find me a photographer. And what are they gonna shop on? They're gonna go to Google, headshot photographers. They're gonna call the first one they see. How much does it cost? Well, maybe the budget, maybe the boss gave them a budget, maybe he didn't. So she's just gonna start finding some prices, and they're gonna pick on price, okay? Now, if they're picking on price, they're never gonna pick me. I'm gonna be the more expensive person. And when I went on location, it was $150 to go on location, plus the first image and then each edition. When I got rid of the studio, I said, I no longer have the ability to justify that location charge. I only go on location. I can't give a location charge. So I just went to $250 for the first image. I'm on location, $250 for the first image, $85 each additional. Now, they've got 3 people in the office. They need them all photographed like I did today. They only need 1 image per person. I'm gonna take several, but they're gonna pick their favorite. I'll retouch it and email it to them when I'm finished. First person I photograph is $250, each additional is $85. So 3 people is $420, okay?
What size are the photos? Do you
I send them an 8x10 at 300 PPI, so it's 3,000 by 2,400 pixels.
Thank you.
And yes, they get reproduction rights, but not copyrights. So, you know what's funny? I used to have a PDF that told them they have reproduction rights, but not copyrights. And I sent it to them, and I guarantee you they never looked at it. So I quit sending it. I just said, you know, this is a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna do this. I'll just tell them that, and I'll hold myself to that standard. I'm not gonna, you know, mess with anyone. I've never had a reason to go after someone for using an image that I own the copyright to. I've never caught anybody using it weirdly, except one guy. I did a photograph of the mayor of Tampa. He put it on the back of his truck. He downloaded it off the Port of Tampa Board of Directors website. He made a 20 by 24. He put it on the back of his truck. He said some horrible things about the mayor and pointed an arrow at the photograph I took. And I saw it online one day, and I was like, I'm gonna sue this guy. And when I tracked him down, I found out from the mayor's office, no, he's insane, leave him alone. You don't want him to mess with you. So I said, okay, and I backed off. I'm not a litigious person. I don't really worry about things like that. So I send them a high enough res, they can make a billboard. I mean, you can make a billboard out of an 8x10, you really can, digitally, especially nowadays. You know, it's gotten even better. But I've had billboards all over Tampa where, you know, where they're real estate agents or doctors and things like that. And I rarely sent them more than an 8x10 at, you know, at that resolution at 300 PPI. So, and feel free to stop me if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer, or it doesn't matter. This can be a very informal program, because I was telling somebody a while ago that I hadn't spoken on photography in 10 years. I've spoken a bunch on the Appalachian Trail the last year and a half, but I quit doing programs on photography when I realized I was just training my competition. I just didn't want to do that anymore. But, you know, it's funny. You guys are a camera club. You're not a Tallahassee Professional Photographers Association. Tallahassee, I won't do this program, but for you guys, I will.
Thank you.
I think where you are in your world of photography. And you guys do some amazing work. I saw it the last time I was here, and I've watched it because I'm part of your Facebook group, so I've watched it. And the wildlife and the landscapes and the sunsets and the stuff that you guys do, I wish I could do. I wish I had time to do it, but I wish I could be that patient, which I know you have to be for light and wildlife, okay? There's a guy in Lakeland named Andy Glogauer. If you ever get the chance to get him to come speak, he does the most amazing bird photographs you've ever seen. Birds fighting snakes and stuff like that. Wonderful stuff. Andy Glogauer, so look him up. He's in Lakeland, and I'm sure he would love to give a program. He is absolutely a phenomenal photographer.
Will do, thank you.
But I just decided I only wanted to speak now on the trail because that helps sell books. which is just fun for me. And I had written a book on photography in 2007. It's called Children's Portrait Photography, a Photojournalistic Approach. And it was published by Amherst Media. It was sold in 3 countries on bookstore shelves. It still exists today. It's still out there. I haven't had a royalty check in years. Feel free to buy one. But it's a how-to book for professionals, marketing, sales, things like that. This is basically just the lighting and the workflow. All right, what I want to show you tonight, and we'll just get right into some of this. Let's see. Here we go. That's pretty much everything you see here, with the one exception that paper background is not here. Pop-up background is, and that pop-up background is right here. I can use that. And some of these shoots that I do, I bring 2 backgrounds. Some of them are required to. They want 2 backgrounds per person, and I might do 40 people with 2 backgrounds each. That's a lot of money. I'm like, you people are stupid. They give you that much money? Push a button like this? Anyway, that's what I cart myself into and out of a lot of offices with. And this is what it might look like. This was actually in a school. It's the same setup as a school. Different pop-up background, but you can see the hair light right up there. It's that same hair light. There's a background light, and in this case, there's a stool over here. I didn't bring a stool tonight. Actually, I've got one in the car, but I'm not going to bring it in because I don't need it. You need a stool for kids. They don't stand still. In fact, you put them on a stool, they'll start spinning. But just wait for them to come around and bang, bang, bang. Main light, reflector, and camera on a tripod. It's really very simple. This is that same basic setup. This is in somebody's living room. Okay, you get a lot of executives where they don't have an office, they work from home, but they need to send an image for their web designer, or they need to put something together they got to have a headshot. Everybody's got to have a headshot. The more the merrier. But this is in their now. So I've got the same background set up, hair lights up there, background lights down there, the reflector and the light is set up in what's called a clamshell formation. So the reflector's down here and the light's up here. So the light will come down and bounce the light up to take out the shadows, which is great for eliminating bags under the eyes and the chin. Because the light will create that, but the reflector will remove it. Now, when you turn them sideways, like I'll have them in the beginning, the light will be off to one side and the reflector's on the other side, standing up this way. So that's your typical 3-to-1 ratio Rembrandt type lighting scenario. Like this. This is somebody else's living room. And so I've got hair light, I'm not using a background light, I've got a black background, reflector on one side, main light on the other. So we'll do that setup first. I'm going to take a few pictures, so I hope you guys are all happy and ready to go. Okay, everybody here, going to do your makeup artist, got your hair done, you're wearing like Sunday best, you're in business. This again is clamshell. Now the biggest difference in this and what you see here is that I didn't use studio lights, I'm using speed lights. Okay, so that's my Nikon SB910. That's a Nikon SB700. Up in that small strip softbox is another SB910. So I'll have it's all small lights like this, okay? And this would be used for a background light. This is when I don't remember exactly what my motivation was for doing it that way. And sometimes I have to do it that way by necessity. There's not an outlet for me to find. I've got to go all battery, although I do have a battery pack that I'll use. Sometimes it'll hold 2 plugs, so I can fire up 2 of these lights, but I can't do that very long. It's great, but you know, it's a slower recharge. These actually recharge pretty quickly, but I bought adapters to be able to use these speed lights. So this holds the softbox, and this holds the speed light. Okay, so pops right in there. So there's adapters for all the soft boxes. So I've got a different soft box for my hair light, and you know, like I said, it gives you the same light. That particular background, I didn't bring it with me. I wish I had, but it's the same color, same size, but it's a fabric. It's just a stretch fabric. It's called a X-Drop, I think, and from Westcott, I believe. And it comes, I've got a white and a black and a gray. Okay? I'm very neutral on my backgrounds. I try to sell the neutral look, and I tell them it's commercially useful. You can drop people off this gray background like a green screen. It's beautiful. And it's very clean, it's very professional, it's not going to conflict with any color design on a website or an ad piece or something like that. Let's see here, wake up. Okay. This is the Tampa Port Authority. It's always 2 flags, the American flag and the Florida flag. And where I shoot them from, you'll see an image later, they're usually standing and their head and shoulder is just right in here. You only see this much of the flags, okay? And what's behind it is on a black background, softbox, and reflector. And they're usually just standing. If they're too tall, I have to sit them, so I bring a stool. I have to kind of keep their head level at the same height as this, you know, to fit into that spot in the flags. Sometimes I'll have them stand on a block to get them up a little higher too. You never know. And then I'll just, like here, I've got my little flat that I use to bring my thing in to raise this flag. You have to be careful with the Florida flag, because if their head's in the right spot, instead of it saying Great Seal of Florida, it says Eat Seal. It's just right behind their head. First time it happened, I'm like, I hope they don't notice that. And ever since then, I've been very cognizant of it. I don't want that to be the message. That should never be the message. This is one of my pop-ups. This is this pop-up. It's white on one side, black on the other. And I just hook it to that light. So I don't need this whole background apparatus. It'll hook right up there onto the light. And I can just lift it and drop it and put it where I want it. And then if I hit it with a white, if I'm doing it on the white background, I hit it with a white, it'll go pure white, 256 white, okay, digitally 256, which is a nice clean white. It's blinking white. And what doesn't blink, I can make it blink in post-production. It's really very easy. This is the same scenario. And then this is a case where I'm in a medical office and they're saying, well, all we've got is this 4-foot hallway. What do you think? Well, I think we'll make it work. And, you know, I chose not to use a hair light. There's no hair light there. Background light is this speed light, and the main light is a speed light. So I've got no cords, nothing for anyone to trip on, because there was hospital staff running back and forth, you know, so right through the middle of the shoot. I only had to photograph 2 people, so I was in and out in no time. This is another scenario. If you go to Instagram and you search the hashtag Today's Camera Room, all of these images will pop up, as well as a lot of images from the guy who wants to co-opt that hashtag. I won't tell you his name, you'll figure it out. He's very good, I like him a lot, I really do. Another one where I'm set up in a hallway, and you can see there's actually 2 backgrounds here. There's a white background and a green background. That green one is a bokeh outdoor background. There's another one, there it is, right there. Okay, this is in a boardroom. So the client, it's a hospital, they want everybody photographed on 2 backgrounds. This green outdoor looking background and then a white background. So they will come in, I will set up, I will get 6, 7, 8 shots. They all have to have the same shoulder angle, the same lighting, everything is so streamlined. It's just, you know, I will shoot 7, 8 shots in a minute, in less than that, and then I'll take that white pop-up and put it there, just lean it up, back up, and do 7, 8 more. And then the next person comes in, I'll do that, 7, 8, and then I'll move the white out of the way and do the green 7 and 8. So it kind of rotates back and forth, then back and forth. And they hire me, I'm usually shooting 20, 30 people at a time. Sometimes it's one, but most of the time you're doing all the board of directors or all the executive management or all the interns that are getting, starting their internship, things like that. And I'll be set up in a lobby, I'll be set up in a boardroom, a training room, and for me, it's a lot of fun because it moves fast, it pays very well, and I'm in and out so quick they hardly knew I was there, and they love the speed at which I can turn everything around, not just the shoot, but the finished product. It's got to be able to come back to them as quickly as possible. I wish they paid me as fast as I delivered the product. And I've warned them about that. I said, if I waited as long to deliver the product as you wait to pay me, sometimes it's like 60 days, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I give you 30 days, and you're going to take 60, and I have to call you for it. Sometimes that happens, and it's very frustrating. And I said, you wouldn't like it. And I actually told one client, I said, oh, by the way, we've got a new system now. You're not going to get your images until you pay for it. And should they pay for it? Really quick. This is, again, same scenario, same setup. The simplicity of it is, for me, if I could fit this in the trunk of a Corolla, what was I paying for a studio for? And I can do this 2, 3 times a week and make the kind of money I'm making. If you're shooting enough of them, you can make it. Even if you only do one person a week, and they only bought one image, that's $250. You do that, that's $1,000 a month. That just paid a bill. That's all the way. Everything I do now, I just look at it and say, this is going to pay that bill, this is going to pay that bill. I've got, I don't know how many of these. Okay, here's some images. This is what it would look like if it was shot on this background. This is shot on this background. And they're standing. I don't even sit them down. I stand, I put an X on the floor with some tape. I forgot to put that down. And then they just stand. And usually they're always going, everybody in that same company is going in the same direction. I will flip them back and forth if they don't have a standard that I have to follow. I'll ask them, what's your favorite side? What's your best? Everybody's got a best side. Who knew? And here's how I read an article. All love articles, right? They always tell the truth. Here's what the article said. The article said, 80% of the people will pick the side their hair is parted on as their best side. So this would be my best side. Well, if you're bald, what if you have no hair? What if you part your hair in the middle? There's a lot of what ifs. And so I never know. I look at somebody and I think, okay, I might pick this as their best side, but then they tell me the other side's the best side. I said, okay, well, that's fine. We'll do your side first, and then we'll do my side, and then we'll see who wins. And sometimes I win. You never know. But the simplicity, you see, you make a very light hair light, just enough to add some separation, some highlights to the hair. You have to be careful. Blonde hair, going to blow out. Gray blows out completely. So you might need to be able to adjust that sometimes. Most of the time, I will pick it for brown hair and not so much power that it blows out on a gray hair person. And if they're bald, I just turn it off. Okay, unplug it, just pull the plug right out of the wall. Somebody comes in, they don't have hair, pull the plug out of the wall. So I gotta make an adjustment to my background light. I don't say hair light, background light. I unplug it, and then I go over and I shoot, and then I hope I remember to plug it back in before the next person comes in. Same thing here, only this is actually shot on a black background with the background light. So you actually got a little gradient of dark gray to black in the image. I learned that a couple of years ago, and I bought the black pop-up background because I wanted to try it, and it was really good, but sometimes it comes off a different color. You see a slightly different color. Probably has to do with the setting in the camera in Photoshop. And I color correct based on their face, not on the background. So I have to be careful sometimes that if I'm doing that same background for 18 people for the same company, I want the background to be the same. Sometimes I will extract them off the background and put one background in to match, so everybody matches. Doctors typically want a 3/4 length. And so this is, it's funny, Newsome I, that's not me, Newsome I, his studio, or his office is right next to it, where my studio was located next door to him for 10 years. And we used to get each other's mail. And I like that because he gets bigger checks than I do. I would open them and he'd, oh, darn, I'm sorry, I gotta run back, get the money back. And, but I actually photographed his wedding about 30 years ago. It was in the mid-90s, so maybe 28 years ago, something like that. I photographed his wedding. And he's a popular doctor. He's invented some kind of LASIK surgery that he's known for, but that's done on, not on this gray background. That is shot on a white background with no background lights, okay? Gray background, if you want just a gray background, but you don't have a gray background, just use a white background. Don't put any lights on it, keep them a little further off, and make sure your light's not gonna throw shadows. And you've got a nice, clean, gray background, just a midpoint gray background. That was actually shot on a white background. There's your, see, if his head was over, it would say, eat seal. Now, you don't see, this is more out of focus than the first one I ever shot, where I messed it up. But that's the look. And the Tampa Port Authority are usually comprised of the mayor, the city council, or some county commissioners or something like that, some other board members that are big in the naval industry, I guess, nautical industry. A brown, that's a pop-up background. That blue is not. That's a canvas, an old canvas I've had for 30 years. I just drape it over this thing and hang it and use it. But again, you can see light from the left, reflector on the right. Light from the right, reflector on the left. Always, typically, always face them into the light. In this case, if I'm having my light there, then they would be facing shoulders to the light. And I do that because it's the most flattering direction for a light to come. If you broad light them, which is a very artistic way of doing it, then you don't want to broad light heavy people. You don't want to broad light women usually. You want the light to fill more shadows. And so you would face them, and they're still going to look at the camera no matter where their shoulders are going. But it just, body language or the body angle throws its shadows in such a fashion that for women it's more flattering for the light to come into them. I typically shoot what's known as short lighting. This is short lighting. His shoulders are going more to the left. He's actually closer to square, but you know, the light is going to usually go into the chest in my case. Typically that's how I would want to shoot. And I will flip the light and the reflector occasionally. I don't like doing it, but I will. If they're doing a bunch here and a bunch there, I'll move it around because when I shoot, I tether to the laptop and I can see it well enough to know, okay, I need to move my light. I can't just leave it alone. These they look like we're outdoors. It's actually on the 21st floor of a building in downtown St. Pete, and we just got near enough to the window where I could cut out. I didn't have the window frame in the photograph. Okay, shoot with the right lens. I shoot with a 7200 zoom, and I'm usually shooting about 135 to 200. I'm in that range, and if they've got windows like this, I can stand him on a stool like this, get my lights up high enough, and I'm on a stool, and now he's clear out. The windowsill is about that height in that office, and I don't have to worry about the windowsill or the window frames. And I've got all of downtown St. Pete on a beautiful clear blue day. It's gorgeous. And that client has been hiring me for 5 years. And it's funny. Some of my clients, a lot of them, I call it the 5-year plan. Because in 5 years, somebody's going to get promoted. And then suddenly the person who was in charge of you is now in another department, and somebody else comes in. Well, what's the first thing that person does to impress the boss? They look at the budget. Well, look how much money we're spending on that. Well, Susie down in the camera in the mailroom, she's got a great camera. Let's let her do the headshots next year. And that's what I've been replaced by the mailroom clerk so many times. And occasionally they call me back, and I get to you know, reestablish my value with the client. But usually it's about a 5-year life with any company. But if you can stick that life out for 5 years, they bought you a car. You know, if you get enough money out of it, they're gonna buy you a car. And that's, you know, that one was done in the foyer, but it was the window, that is outdoors, and it's just, you know, there's a window behind her, but she's in the lobby of an office. I did headshots on this background, and then these were real estate agents, and they needed a shot of the two of them together in a home. So I just did a very shallow depth of field so the background blows out of focus. You know that rule. You understand, I mean, if you're shooting macro stuff, you know, everything's out of focus except that butterfly, right? That's pretty much the way I like to shoot. I was probably at 2.8 or 3.2 or something like that on those. This is a financial guy in downtown Tampa. That's Tampa skyline. And then I went to Google Maps to show him. I said, I'm going to meet you on Platt Street Bridge right near downtown. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. So I went to Google Maps and I found this. I pulled it up. That's where I photographed him. Okay, he's standing on the bridge. If you go down this sidewalk here, it goes straight to the convention center. That's where we parked, the convention center. So just park at the convention center, go outside, and then take the bridge. And I'll meet you up there. And I'm set up there with nothing but one light and a reflector.
That's pretty.
And we're waiting for sunset, because I knew what color the buildings would go. This was taken from Google in the middle of the day. That was taken later in the day. This was the mascot, the office mascot. We're shot on that background. Excuse me, but they said, can you take, you know, Fido's picture? I don't remember his name. And I said, yeah, sure, you know, no problem. And he was so good. He was an older dog, so he's not going to jump around a lot. He went crazy. And, you know, all I had to do was quack like a duck, and his ears perked up, you know. The doctor, of course, that's what that green background looks like. I'm not a fan of it. The client found it on Denny's manufacturing website. Those of you who are familiar with Denny's manufacturing, they found it. They said, we found this background we want to use. It's on Denny's. You ever heard of Denny's? Yeah, I've heard of them. You know, I probably spent $10,000 with Denny's over the years. And so I bought the background, and it was 10 feet wide, 8 feet high, way too big for what I needed. So I cut it down to the width of this right here. I cut it to that width. I literally trimmed 2 sides off of it, threw it away, and just kept the middle. And I bought it, and I own it. The client didn't, I didn't charge the client for it. They wanted it. I bought it. Now I own it. Nobody else said that background. That background's been discontinued. So as long as they want that background, they gotta call me, or they gotta rent that background from me, which has only happened once. So I've been really fortunate in that regard. It's another little trick that you hook them into, and you're a client from their client for life. You know, it's worked out very nice. Yeah, everybody want to get shot?
With their heads on or off?
What's that? Yeah.
With the heads on
With
or
the heads
off?
cut off. Yeah, sometimes we cut the heads off. It's funny. The terminology, of course, evolves every year, and there's always a new class of photographers that comes in and says, oh, okay, well, we can't use shoot anymore, because that's low key, low class. We use, you know, we photograph, we create, we use images, not pictures. We don't even use portraits anymore. It's all imagery. I was like, yeah, get over yourself. It's photography, okay? Photography is photography. It'll always be photography until AI gets its teeth into it. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a fan of AI, but I will be, and I know it. It's just a matter of time. I did use generative fill the other day when I was. I photographed a client, and there was one of those things on the walls in a medical office, and she's leaning against this door frame, but near her head was one of those things where they would put the clipboard that has the stats for whoever's in that room. and it was very distracting. I couldn't pull it off the wall at the time. And when we saw the images, that's the first thing she said, "Oh, that looks horrible." I said, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of that." And I happened to have updated my Photoshop like a couple days later, and then I was looking for something in one of the drop downs, and I saw generative fill, and I went, "Oh, that's the magic phrase for make something magically go away, and it's supposed to be very accurate." And I said, "Let's just see how accurate it is." And I circled it with a lasso, and it says, "Okay, the prompt." And I said, "Remove object, get over it, just get rid of it." And it didn't just remove it, it actually recreated exactly what should have been behind it, that I knew. What's the other one that you use when you're not using, I'll think of it in a second, it's in Photoshop. Doesn't always work. It always like takes bits of the image and then reconstructs, and it looks like, something Picasso put together. This worked so beautifully, it blew my mind. I said, that saved me a lot of cloning, because that was the only way you could do it, for the longest time. Now it's, much simpler. Now when I shoot with clients these days, I just recently invested in a new software called Headshot Tools. Now, Headshot Tools is expensive, but if you use it, and you use it a lot, and you use it correctly, it's worth it. You can go online on the YouTube, or you can go online into Facebook.
Setting your computer on this work? Would setting
That
your
help?
computer on this work?
Yeah, that might.
Okay.
My biggest concern is that the cord is kind of short. And yeah, it is. There we go. A little bit extra space. Okay, let's just take this out of the way. Close that. And put this. Now, I'm going to tether into Lightroom. How many of you use Lightroom? Some of you. There's two main raw processing programs that are on the market that a lot of people use: Lightroom and Capture One. I just recently purchased Capture One. I bought the lifetime perpetual license. It's like $300, $299. And the reason I bought it was because I decided to start using this other program called Headshot Tools. Headshot Tools was developed by a photographer in Orlando, and he's charging $59 a month subscription to use Headshot Tools. What happens when you shoot with Headshot Tools? You tether into Capture One, which I've never used before, so I got to learn that. Right now, tonight, we're just going to shoot into Lightroom. You can use Headshot Tools with Lightroom, but there's another program you got to buy to kind of make this happen. And I was like, oh, it's like I'm 30 all over again. And but Headshot Tools is $59 a month. But what happens is when you shoot, like with a big client, say you were a company, and all of you people had to be photographed today. And I'm going to take 5, 6, 7 images per person, and we're going to be out of here in an hour, right? Headshot Tools, the client would give you either in an Excel spreadsheet or in some electronic fashion, your first name, your last name, and your email address, and maybe your cell phone number, okay? And that's all put into a CSV form, okay, which is an Excel spreadsheet. Put that on your laptop. When the client shows up, and okay, you're first, what's your name? And they go down alphabetically, and you push your name. And then that activates, okay, now the camera knows all the pictures I'm going to take right now are for you. And as I shoot, they will be emailed directly to you as I'm photographing, okay? And they will go to your phone as a text message, the proofs, okay? So if I take 5, 6, 7 shots, by the time I'm finished and I say in session, within 60 seconds, you're now in possession of all of those images. But they're low res, but they're well enough to at least make a decision on which ones you want, right? And then there's a little button there, there's a little heart. You hit the heart button, and I can determine how many hearts you're allowed to touch. So if the client is paying for 1 image per person or 2 images per person, then you would be able to hit that number of hearts. And then the image is sent. That information that you have selected those comes back to my laptop and goes to another program called Evodo, which is a retouching service that retouches the image and then sends the finished image to you. I don't have to do anything.
Wow.
I know, right? If I'm shooting 30 people at a session, that just saved me an all day of retouching in post-production. I've got more time on my hands. I could shoot another day like this and not have to worry about what's going to get done. Now, there are some fallbacks, some drawbacks. The retouching is not custom retouching. If the person says, I need you to remove this pin or straighten that tie, or sometimes the stray hairs still show up in Evodo. That's what it's called, Evodo. So stray hairs are still a problem. Glare on glasses might still be a problem. Things like that. There are still custom. When I retouch somebody's head, an executive's head, I'm usually 5 minutes. I can fix glare on glasses, retouch their hair, their skin, their teeth, their eyes, and maybe fix the collar or the necktie if it's not straight, that kind of thing. I can do that in 5 minutes. So I can retouch 12 people an hour. Well, if I've got 50 people, that's a lot. 60 people, 5 hours. I got to spend all day on the computer just for that one client. But it's worth it when you add up 2 hours it took me to shoot it, and then the 5 hours of retouching. It's still going to be a great day's pay. But who wants to sit at the computer all day? Not me. I'd rather, sit out in a glass of wine and read a good book. If I had my choice. I'm hitting that age, So anyway, retouch headshot tools I have not yet figured out. I can't show that to you tonight because I just got on board with this like a week and a half ago, and I've been too busy to figure it out. I've tried, and I got frustrated, and I said I need to have somebody who's already using it, so sit down with me and walk me through the setup process. But what I can show you and do is we can shoot it. I can show you the lighting scenarios. We can be able to look at them right here. You pick which one. We'll just star it. I'll retouch it when I get back to Tampa, and I'll send it to you. Okay, so we just need your email address. That's it. Okay, very good. So who are my volunteers tonight? I don't care how many we have. We can do all of them. There's you go. There's a volunteer. Come on down.
If I can get up.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do, this setup that you're seeing right here.
Good seeing y'all.
Start with.
Oh, wait, on one knee?
Just stand on this side. Stand on that side of it. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm just going to make a little adjustment back here.
We'll be able to ship in one shot and save the bullet. That's what they do in China.
Okay, here's what I'm going to put this over here.
I shot a yearbook by myself, 632 students, did everything by hand, 12 trips, same print, and I said, never again. Never in my life.
We're going to do it this 2 ways. I know I'm blocking your view, but you'll be able to see the image. If you can't, feel free to move around to get to where you can see these. They will pop up as we go.
Actually, that improves our view.
What was that again?
You're next.
Now, I haven't done any test shots, and normally when I set up for this with a client, I put all of this together, and then I've got a remote, and I'll go stand where he's standing, and I'll fire a couple of shots at myself and look at him and then make my adjustments. So when a client walks in, everything's ready to go. So we're starting cold. Let's turn the corner, turn towards the light, toes towards the light. That's good. Put this a little further to this side. And I don't aim it at the client, I aim it at the reflector, okay? I want it to skim past them and then predominantly bounce into him. I'll turn this down a little bit. And he's got white hair, so we'll find out in a minute if my hair light is too strong.
Actually, there's a new name for that color.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Arctic Blonde.
Art and woman.
Hey,
I love
Kevin,
that.
Hey,
if you want, we can
these
turn
Kevin,
off the
these are my
lights.
friends.
What's
If
that?
you want, we can turn off the lights.
Oh, no, leave them on, leave them on, it's okay. We'll see in just a minute, because I'm at, 160 and 100. It would be black, even with it. You stay right there for a second. I just want to look at the light real quick. And that's bad, right out of the box. Let's look at this. Now, that is Lightroom. I'm gonna go to Bridge, which allows us to see a little bit bigger. And that's typically when I show the client the images in this Bridge. So I've got about a little more than a 3:1. I'm gonna bring this in a little tighter. It's not gonna overdo it too much, I don't think. Air light's good on it. Nothing flashing. Alrighty, now, let's see. Big hands, put them in pockets. Now, all I'm doing here is moving the elbows out. This is gonna crop typically about mid-bicep, okay? You don't see down to the elbow. I'm gonna see to the elbow in the photograph here, but when I'm finished with it, he's never gonna see that. And anything below here is not gonna show. So, that's good, just like that. Stay right there. Hold on, let me take another look. Okay. And you know what it did? It only just, I needed to see the most recent. Maybe if I go back. All right, I'm going to go back to Lightroom because it will automatically show me the last one. And I'll just get rid of this. Yeah, that just makes it a little easier to see. All right. Now, things that I'm going to retouch. I take care of specular highlights. You'll see it on the forehead, you'll see it on the bridge of the nose, sometimes the chin, sometimes the cheek. Whatever the point is where it changes direction, that's where you're going to get highlights coming from your lighting. If you're in a continuous light source, such as available light, you don't have specular highlights, but it's sometimes a little muddy and you don't get catch lights in the eyes. So I tend to like to flash a little more than all available. If we're outside and we're using reflectors, we can get away with it, but typically I don't. Okay, now we gotta go to your happy place, okay? So here's what you want to do, yeah. You go to your happy zone. Your happy zone is wherever you've got a little sand between your toes.
That's the one. That's the one.
That is good.
A little sand between your toes, a little umbrella in your drink, that's a little steel drum going in the background. You're on a cruise ship headed to Jamaica, hold it right there, that's it. You see, maybe a golf club in one hand. We'll do this, fold your arms for me. I want you to fold them just like this, just lock them together.
And then you,
That's it, perfect.
Okay.
Just like that. Now, the book, body language, blah, 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 I don't know. Body language experts tell you, oh, this is closing off. They've been saying that since the 60s. This is also a hero pose, okay? This absolutely, how many real estate agent ads have you seen where they're going? South Park did a whole episode on it, okay? A whole episode. Everybody had to have their picture taken, and they were all doing that. And not just that, but when they went to sell the house, they would literally go, well, what do you think, Bob? Well. So it's funny, but the arms folded actually is powerful if it's done right. Now, you don't want your shoulders going forward. You got to bring them back and up. Yeah, that's it, just like that. That's better. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see here.
Oh, there you go.
That's good.
I like that.
Glare on glasses. Okay, glare on glasses. It's going to happen. You know how there's a couple of ways we can correct it because his glasses aren't that bad. So all I got to do to correct it is just turn your face to the camera a little bit more. There you go. Good, just like that. Don't go too high with the chin. Hold it right there. That's nice. Stay where you are. Just take a quick look. Okay, see, it's not so bad here.
Yeah, pretty good.
But if it was, and some people have very reflective glasses, you take one shot without it. So do me a favor, take your glasses off, just hold them down, they won't show. Good, just like that. That same expression, gotta have that smile, okay? That's the one right there, good. Now, what I would do is, in Photoshop, I'll take those eyes and replace the eyes in his glasses. It takes me all of 3 minutes to do that. It's a pain in the butt, but I will do it knowing they're gonna like it better. And it's not going to be a distraction. And you can actually repaint the shadows from the frames and the stuff back into the image. I do it for schools all the time. I did a school the other day, a little over 300 kids. a lot more kids these days wear glasses than they used to. I don't know why, but they are. And some of these kids' glasses are pretty thick and very reflective. And I just, when they took their glasses off, their eyes were crossed. I mean, their corrective glasses were there for a reason. And this one poor child, I knew I was going to have a problem because I couldn't use his eyes when he took his glasses off. His eyes were just, they were literally, one of them just went way over. With the glasses on, his eyes straightened up. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out a way to do it. I ended up taking one eye and putting it on the other side of his head. I don't think old mom will notice. He's got two left eyes. Who knows? You reverse it, and you move the catch light, you can do it, okay? It takes a little while, but, make the kid feel a lot better. You don't want them to feel bad. Now, leave them, go to mom.
Leave mom?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it, just like that. Now, bring the hands back down, put the hands on the hips. There you go. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom out. We're going to move you over a little bit this way. Right there, good, just like that. I'm just going to take a quick test shot. Just want to look at the light on you real quick. Okay, you see the light. What I want to do is I want to bring the background light up a little higher. And sometimes you can just aim it higher, but I'm just going to raise it up. I want it up here.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Just want to see where, okay.
Now, change your body. Change your body language by doing this. You're going to point 1 foot at me.
Right.
1 foot at me. Bring your right foot. Yeah, just like that. And all the weight stays on the back leg. I want you to stay on the back leg so that you can lift it. Yeah. Now, put the hands back in the pockets. Oh, that's it, just like that. Right there. Good. Now, hold on.
Have I got a deal for you?
Oh, right there, good, just like that. Now, what you want to do now?
Uh-oh.
All right, look against the blade,
I like
right
it.
there, that's it. That's it. Now do
Yeah,
this for
you
me.
did.
Look right at me and just say, please hurry.
What?
Say, please hurry.
Please, sir.
That's it, just like that. Now, I want you to bring the hands back, put them on your hips. You can hold it right there. Now, don't look up there. Keep looking at me. Good.
Sorry.
Now, bring the hands together. It's like you were having a conversation. So you just got to touch the fingertips. Yeah, just like that, right there, but with a smile. You gotta be, you're having a good, yeah, that's it, just like that. Now, bring your hands back up.
Right.
Hands up where you're just kind of holding the middle finger, like you were just kind of twisting the finger just a little bit. That's it. Now, but I gotta have happiness. You gotta be on that sailboat, man. You gotta be on the golf course, where you're, your best fishing hole. Hold it right there. Now, do this. Bring this hand down, put this hand in your pocket, but leave this one up. Yeah, just drop it about half mast, okay? Bob Dole style, or Bill Clinton, whatever it is.
Rob, just think of all the money you're going to be making.
Don't clench the fist. I don't want you to hold the baseball bat. I want you to very quietly hide this thumb. Yeah.
Hide the thumb.
And then just drop it down just a little bit lower. Yeah, right there. That's it. Just like that. A little curl to it. That's better. Right there. Don't move. There we are. Good. Okay. Now,
I like it.
cropped right, on that I would crop it just below the hand, or I might crop it back to head and shoulder, okay? But the point is, you give the client some variety. Sometimes you know what you're doing is not going to work, they're not going to like it, but that's okay, you got to give them an evil. If you don't give them an evil, then they'll never find the one they love.
Right.
If you give them two, they're going to pick one, right? You want them to pick the one you love, so you shoot like crazy till you get that one that they love. You know they're going to love it because you love it. And if you love it, they're going to love it, you hope. That's the way it should be. And then, yes, you can have to, thank you.
Kevin, could I
Yes.
come up to for your next victim?
Yeah,
I just thought of it. I have the shirt, show off Diana's shirt.
come on down. Come on down. Now, I'm going to change the model lighting for you, okay? You're going to stand same spot. That's good. Let's give you a quarter turn in this direction, the other direction. So we show off the logo, okay? Whenever there's a logo, like a schools, whenever they're school patch, if it's private school, I want that facing the camera. I want that closest to the camera. But what I'm going to do for her is a clamshell lighting. Clamshell lighting is becoming very, very popular these days. This thing has always been broken, but it's never been a problem. Tonight it's decided to be a problem. We're going to figure it out.
We can have Rob come up and hold it. He's doing portrait shots all the time. Right, Rob? You can hold the deflector.
I can.
You know, one of the tricks that I learned with reflectors, I was assisting another photographer, and they said, we need you to be a wind machine. And so I'm just doing that. No, here's what you do. Here's the perfect wind. Watch this. Just 1, See just a
breeze.
little bit of lift in there.
Nice
But
breeze.
Oh, okay.
just one time. But they have to be looking at the camera when you do it, not at me, and then, you know, as long as, and the longer the hair, the more filling it gets. But it's just one swoop with the reflector, just like that. And it really does, and it lasts about 2 seconds. So you hope that, you know, the expression in the camera and the photographer are all on the same page. But,
Got the Speedy Gonzales.
yeah. This, I'm just gonna put it right under you. This is the clamshell lighting that's become so popular these days. And this is a very forgiving light. It's also a very flat light, okay? Which breaks all the rules of the old masters, okay? This is not Rembrandt business. This is Nigel Barker and America's Next Top Model. In fact, this was what he used, this lighting scenario was what he used in America's Next Top Model, the television show. The last episode of the season, the winner, was had a cover girl shoot, okay? This was back in the, I say mid-2000s when I was watching that show. And I was watching it purely as a photographer. I just wanted to see what they were doing with it, because I was photographing a lot of high school seniors, and I knew the seniors were watching that show. And so now I gotta pretend to be Nigel Barker, this British photographer, and he was, you know, good-looking, tall, good-looking, dark guy. Really had he had his system down. But he did the Cover Girl magazine for the cover of Cover Girl, and so the last episode of every season, he would do a shoot with the winner to be on the cover of Cover Girl, and you know, one out, one down. Now this light typically would be coming down just a little bit more. We're just gonna push this up, right up to you. Just ignore it. It's like a table, okay? We're gonna shoot this horizontally. This won't show this, and if it does, we just drop it out later. Not a problem. But I have to be in a position where I turn that horizontal, spun it horizontal, so I can see under it, okay? Because I need it to be almost on axis with the camera. I'm gonna shoot just a little bit past. I need to move this to the short side.
I am rather short too.
No, remember when I said short side and broad side?
Right.
Your shoulders are going this way. I need the light to come from this direction. So I'm gonna bring this over, just gonna put this, get it out of the way. Now let's see where we are. I'll find out now. I'm gonna take a quick test shot and we zoom in a little bit here and see where I am. Move right there. Let's see what happens here. Okay, now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna move you just a little bit this way, not too far. Okay. That's good. Hold on, let me see. I wanna make sure I don't see my background light. I'm seeing it just a little bit. Because I'm making this horizontal, so I have very little room to work with. But I can make it happen. Just gotta, I'm shooting at about 135 from this distance. If I had more room to back up, I would zoom in more, and I wouldn't worry so much about the background. But the reason I want her off to one side, always have them face the message. If you're gonna leave white space or blank space in a horizontal shot, their shoulders should always be facing that space. In this case, she is on this side, and I really want her on the 1/3 line, about a third of the way in, and her head, her eyes would be on a third line, you know, from the top, 1/3 down and 1/3 in. And if her logo was on the other side, we would turn her this way and move her to this side of the background, so that the ad designer can, or billboard, or whoever, whatever they're putting together, business cards mostly, if they want to use this as the background, they can just add the verbiage directly into the image. But the verbiage is in front of the client, always in front of the client. Never have your client with their shoulders are going this way, and you know the ad piece, the verbiage is going to be over here. It's a disconnect. It's a disconnect from the message, and you don't want that to happen. Ad designers will kill you for that. Okay, now I'm going to move this over.
And smile with your, let your teeth show. You need your
That's a
teeth.
great smile.
See, that's much better.
Yes, now I want you to do this for me. You're going to fold your arms one time. There you go. Yes, see, look at that. Hold on, let's see where we are. Look at this. Very easy to put that together. Hold on, you're doing fine. Now what you want to do, tip your head a little bit to this side, just not too far, come back. Turn your chin to me, turn, right there, good. Let that thing go, your happy place now. Don't look up there, look over here. I'm over here. They never get to see these images on the laptop when I'm shooting, so
Right.
this is unusual. That's way over here. And I've been in your position. I was at a convention a couple of years ago, and they pulled me out of the audience because I had the beard, and they said, we need, somebody who looks like Ernest Hemingway. And there was, the problem was the reflector was between me and the screen, so I couldn't see it, and I kept leaning. The photographer's yelling at me. He was some New York photographer. He yelled at everybody. It's funny, but it was great photography. He really did a great job. Making me look like Ernest Hemingway. That's good. That's it. There you go. Don't worry. Now hands on the hips for me. Just like that. Right there. Good. I like that. Hold on. See, you never know.
No, you don't.
You never know what'll work. Sometimes it, something will.
It's like half eye closed.
There you go. That's it. See, even that. Now I would take this image and turn it into a black and white, and that has a message to it. There's something whimsical about this that I love. And if you were putting together a website, you had 8 people in the office, and everybody had to show a little personality in their image. That is a great story.
Absolutely.
Carol Martin did a great job at capturing me when we were out hiking one day with the camera club. I love it. She put me behind one of the palm leaves.
Yeah.
And I don't like being in front of the camera, as most of you know. So she had me hide behind there. I'm just peeking through those leaves. It's my favorite one.
That's great. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm all
Lights
over the
on.
board.
You've got lots of good ones.
Don't
You
forget,
really do.
Thank you.
don't forget the first one is $250.
I know.
85 each additional. 250, 335, 420, 505. And I don't know if any of you realize, I don't know, some of you are my age, so maybe you do. 420. Everybody know the significance of 420?
Yeah.
Some of you are shaking your head now. 420 is code for smoking pot. And because it had to do, I don't know, I think it had to do with that's what time school was out. And it was like school was out at 4, so at 4:20 everybody was going to meet somewhere, and it was always just 4:20, 4:20, 4:20. That was, I heard that, I didn't know that. But I recently had the occasion, and it was this year, where I sent somebody an invoice for $420 and it was due on 4/20. I thought that was hysterical. I don't know if the client thought it or not, but I thought that was just so funny.
Yeah, you'll notice that the highway
I got it.
departments no longer have mile marker 420
Is that
on
right?
the interstates.
Because
They have
people would steal
419, they steal them. The county road 420 in Lafayette, they've had to replace that sign a half dozen times because kids come and steal the
Kids would come to
sign.
steal it.
So, what lens, you said you use 70 to 200?
70 to 200.
And what ISO are you
Okay,
using?
right now I'm shooting at a 100 ISO and, let's see, this isn't good. Yeah, there it is. Right up top here. 1/60th shutter speed, aperture is 6.3, ISO is 100. My white balance is on auto because I don't really
Yeah.
care. I'm gonna white balance
Yeah.
it in post-production anyway, so I just let it do what it's
So,
gonna do.
how far do you get back from the camera to the subject?
I like to be closer to 200, and right now I'm at 135, so if I were to back up another 4 feet, I think I would get there.
So how many feet from the camera?
15, if I have, count these, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. If I had, when a client says, how much space do you need? I say minimum, I say 9 feet. You can see here, 2, 4, 6, 8. But I need to be able to put a light outside of that range too. So I say 8 by 20 is what I typically will say, and rarely do they have that much room. And you saw the pictures. sometimes I'm in a 6-foot wide hallway.
Yeah.
And the only reason I can put that background up is because the hallway turned. And I can put,
Now, if you have a small hallway like that, do you still use the 70 to 2?
yeah, I do.
You do?
I can't remember the last time I shot with a 24-70. That's the next lens down
Yeah,
that I have. I've got what's known as the Holy Trinity. The first one is a 16 to 35, and then the next one is 28 or 24 to 70, and then 70 to 200. So I've got everything from 16 to 200 with just 3 lenses.
Now, do you use your grid on the back of the camera? Do you have your grid showing, or you just know
Only when
what
I'm
you...
looking for the third lines.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
That I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I use that, and I use it also to determine where the top of the head's gonna go. I don't put it on that grid line, I usually have it hitting them right about here. I want it just above the grid line. If I had it where I wanted it, if I had the 1/3, she would be lower in the frame. You know, because those grid lines are 1/3, 1/3, 1/3,
Right.
1/3, right?
Right.
And she would be too low in the frame for anything, especially on the horizontals.
Mhm.
Horizontals, it's when some photographers shoot exclusively headshots horizontal, and then they'll crop it to vertical if that's what the client wants. And it probably helps their sales, because the client's not judging on things that aren't going to be seen, which is from here down.
You mentioned color balance.
Yes.
Is that gray background neutral enough that you can just color balance off?
Yeah, I can color balance off that. I can color balance off a tooth.
Unless it got really yellow teeth.
If you get the specular highlight in the tooth. Now, I've color balanced on my convention work. I've color balanced off a bottle cap, okay, sitting on a table in a big room. I was like, that's gray enough. You know, the back of a laptop, the silver of a chair, this podium that he's standing at, it's got a microphone that's made of silver, you know. I will white balance, and then I'll batch process with that color balance number, a whole bunch of images that were taken in that room.
So I've got a little tiny gray card,
Yeah,
and I'll just do the first shot with that,
yeah,
and then
and
apply
that
that
works.
color balance to all of them.
Yeah, yeah, I just quit, I had a gray card that I used to carry, but I think I just,
You don't need to if you're setting a gray
well,
background.
if you're doing that, no. No, that is the gray card.
Only gray
Yeah.
card.
But my color balance, I lean a little more towards blue than I do red. I don't like my images to be too warm. I like them to be a little fresher. I want my whites to be whiter, so there's a little more blue going on. Question?
So what kind of flash trigger do you use?
These are Young-Yo.
Yeah,
That's what I'm passing.
Young Yo.
broke my math.
Yeah.
I feel like I broke the math.
Yongnuo. Young-Yo.
Inexpensive, really work
Okay,
well.
and it's like $85 for a set of 2.
Right.
And they will act as both a transmitter and a receiver. It's got like, I forget how many channel variations, there's
7.
1, 2, 3, and ABC over here, so I always just go 1A. And then if when I shot school, I had 2 camera setups, and one was 1A and the other one was 2A. And they don't trigger each other. But then you have to put a remote on every single light, so that because otherwise this is firing as a sleigh light. Okay, this is firing only because that's hitting it, so it fires. If I put a remote on it, then it wouldn't matter if that hits it. And you make the mistake sometimes of having this on channel 2 and that on channel 1. And you don't know it until you're 3 or 4 shots in, and you realize it's not firing. Why is that happening? Did you have a question?
Yeah. The cord that you connect your camera to
Yeah.
the computer,
Mhm.
is there any magic about that?
Yeah.
Because I've been afraid to do anything, because I don't want to blow up my camera.
Yeah, no, this is called Tether Tools. Tether Tools is a website, tethertools.com. And I just got this when I signed on to do, I had just a regular US camera it was the cord that comes with the Nikon D750, which is what this is. It's only about this long, okay? And it plugs into the camera, and then it had a USB on the other end. And I bought a USB extension cord years ago, and I plug into that and then plug into the laptop. Well, that extension cord went bad, everything simultaneously with He decided to go this route, so I bought the tether cord. Now this goes, I don't have to use the cord that comes with my con anymore. This goes straight in. The beauty of this is, this little gizmo here is what keeps it from yanking out of the camera. This little connection goes right in here. Now it keeps the tension off the camera. Same thing over here. I don't want this to be accidentally pulled out. So I can turn it around where you see it. This right here is a magnet, and comes with the piece you peel and stick that on your laptop, and that magnetizes, so now there's no stress here. Okay, that's always been a problem. It was always a problem with me before. And I knew this tool existed, this tether tool existed. I was just too lazy to buy it. And I finally got around to it with this. I said, I'm gonna make this whole thing work. I have to. If I'm gonna pay $59 a month for something, I want my money back, I want everything to work. I had to pay $300 for Capture One. I've just begun to learn how to use that and tether into it. And then I bought the tether tool. I need to sign up for Avodo, which is the retouching tool. And then the headshot tools I've got, and I'm paying for it. I've already paid for it 3 weeks ago, and I haven't used it in action yet, but I need somebody to help me with the setup process. It's a little convoluted to set up only because I don't know Capture One that much. But I do know Lightroom. I could probably tether it into Lightroom, but there's something, another program that's a third party, I forget what it's called, but you've got to be able to have that to make all of the pieces of headshot tools work. Point is, for me, I do enough of this work to where I can justify all of these costs with one good job. And one good job will pay for everything for a year. Okay, I've already paid for the perpetual license on Capture One, so I don't have to pay for that ever again. I pay $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom. Okay, I'm a subscriber there, but you know, this industry is constantly evolving, and you've got to stay on top of it. You've got to keep up. If you don't, then you're either going to be fine in your world as long as your world exists. And you know, I was a late adapter, and I think I was late. I was shifted from film to digital. I did film for 15 years professionally before digital was suddenly there. And you didn't have a choice. You knew the writing was on the wall. By 2000, everybody was jumping ship. And I remember going to conventions, and the speaker would always ask, hand up, how many of you are digital? How many of you are film only? How many of you are hybrid? And I saw that shift in, you know, digital. It was all film, and then it was hybrid, and then it was all digital. And I know film photographers today who are still shooting film. And they're scanning their image, their negatives, they're having them professionally scanned, and they're selling it, and they're doing fine. You can do it, but you can't get the turnaround that the digital client wants to have. A lot of my clients want the same day turnaround. They want to shoot it today, they want it by 5 o'clock. And I can do that. I can go home and download, retouch in 10 minutes. The image is in their e-box, and their invoice is attached to it. So, you know, what I see happening in this industry now is software is becoming more and more crucial to keeping up, because now this generative fill, this AI business, your clients don't know what they don't know, and they just assume you know what they don't know. And if you don't know something about it, they're going to ask somebody else to do something that you said, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do that. They've seen it done. Commercials on television ruin it. Kodak, my God, are you kidding me? Kodak would, you know, they got family picture, and you know, everybody's in the picture, and there's 12 people, and you know, this one guy's eye blinked, and Kodak takes their finger in a commercial and circles somebody, and boom, a new person shows up there with his eyes open, you know. That's not how that works. Nobody, it doesn't work like that. But they sold the public on that. So my clients were coming to, well, I've seen how easy it is. Why do you charge extra for retouching? You've got to do a head swap. That shouldn't, they do it on that commercial. I saw that commercial. It's like, yeah, they lied to you. Sorry, but it just doesn't happen like that. Well, now it's getting to that point with AI. Some of that stuff is that easy, and it's incredibly good. So you gotta stick with it, you know, just keep pretending like it's just a new good book to read. It's just a camera manual, right? Or it's an instruction manual on how to use Photoshop's latest tool. I don't know. For me, the whole world was, photography was never my passion. You know what? Isn't that weird? Coming from a guy who's done nothing but photography for his career for 40 years, it was never my passion. You know what my passion was? Paying my damn bills. That's it. Pay your bills. And you know what? Photography sounds like an easy job. It was on one time. I could make a lot of money and not work that hard because the lab did all the work in the film days. I know how bad I was until the lab, you know, we switched to digital, and then I realized I suck. And I had to learn it even better. Now, because we used to expose for the shadows and print for the highlights.
Right.
Now you expose for the highlights and print for the shadows. It's just, you know, it's a whole different world.
Yep.
How are we doing on time? We're time to cut it off, guys. Thank you. I will need your email address and your email address. I hope you got a little something out of it. Well,
Thank you for coming.
I hope you enjoyed the presentation. To learn more about the Branford Camera Club, please come to one of our meetings.